All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining on this Tuesday morning. April 18th, we are hurtling toward the end of the school year. This always happens. Fourth quarter is sneakily fast. Perhaps all of you don't quite experience it that way, but I can assure you that here at school, the days are flying by. But it's a time of great excitement and enthusiasm on campus, particularly because every single day from now until I think May 2nd, we have our senior thesis presentations happening during third and fourth hour, and then also happening at the end of the school day on occasion. I think those run from either 2:30 to 3:20 on Fridays, and then there are also some weekdays. You of course have received a message from us that gives a detailed schedule of when all these thesis presentations are happening. I do hope that you'll take the time to maybe attend one in person, and if that doesn't work for your schedule, to log in for one. These are always inspiring. I think people walk away from these student presentations feeling so encouraged, perhaps about the state of education in our small city in Atlanta, that an option like this is available to students. It is staggering to watch a 17-year-old, 18-year-old present on a 12 to, in some cases, 25-page paper, and then defend that argument coherently for 40 minutes in front of a panel of 3 faculty members. I've noticed an interesting trend in our presentations this year, and this always happens. There are certain topics that our seniors are returning to with kind of particular focus and attention. And this year, it's the question of what it means to work towards some sense of objective truth in the world. I've had a variety of different students want to tackle this question of what does it mean for folks to kind of commit themselves to an objective sense of reality, as opposed to giving themselves over to relativism, or to say that a human being is locked in his or her subjective interpretation of the world. I've got a quotation from one of our students' theses. She's actually already presented, but I wanted to begin today by reading to you all. And again, if this doesn't inspire you to come to a presentation, I don't know what will, but let me just read what the student wrote. This was in her introduction, as she sort of offers up her argument, gives some context for what excited her about this project in the first place and what drew her to this particular topic matter. I want to live well and leave a mark on the world around me. But is this better done through unrestrained freedom, or is it essential to bind my freedom to an objective basis of truth? Assuming that living well simply relies on using free will, men would live a good life by fleeing any binding standard, such as an objective basis for what is good or true, in order to maximize their freedom. However, in analyzing and contrasting the opposing beliefs of aesthetic existentialism and objectivism set forth in The Humanism of Existentialism and the Abolition of Man, I realized that free decisions in themselves are not enough. In order to live a good, fulfilling life, men must freely and consciously make meaningful decisions, and only an objective external foundation is able to provide this meaning, because it remains universally true outside of the individual man. By accepting objective truth and binding their freedom to this standard, men reduce license but enable meaningful freedom. Men live well by binding their freedom to an objective standard, providing a firm basis of meaning for their lives. I think this is such a beautiful articulation of, in part, what we hope in education to achieve at Atlanta Classical. If you recall, one of the ways that we describe classical education, this was one of those 7 descriptions that I offered earlier in the year, was that students would rightly define freedom, right? That they wouldn't think about freedom as kind of unrestrained choice that releases them to do whatever they want, but that our students would think of their freedom as something that endows them with profound responsibility. And what I see this student and others wrestling with throughout their presentations is, all right, I'm about to graduate from high school, to go into college and to have new levels of freedom and new levels of responsibility. How can I do something meaningful with this, right? Their focus is not just how do I maximize my fun over the next 4 years, that we hope they enjoy college and sort of experience its fullness. but they're really seriously sitting with the weight of responsibility of existing in community with other people. And that so many of them are realizing that the foundation of their lives needs to have some pursuit of truth at the heart of it, I think is such a beautiful testament to the work that their teachers have done with them. So again, a final plug here to attend a presentation. Zoom in. You are welcome to attend one in person. Just sign in at the front office and walk down to the high school building. These are always very exciting. All right. Another thing that we've been celebrating on campus yesterday in particular is one Mr. Dr. David Hahn. Dr. Hahn defended his dissertation on Saturday morning and officially earned his PhD. And now he is lording it over us and requiring that we call him Dr. Hahn. He's very excited about getting to wear a funny hat to graduation. I'm kidding. Dr. Hahn is, as you all know, the most humble and gracious person on campus, but we are incredibly proud of him. He has done all of this work while diligently fulfilling his duties at ACA. So if you see him, please do congratulate him and be sure to call him Dr. Hahn. All right, a couple other just highlights from the past week. On Saturday, we had our inaugural Wonderfest run by our high school science faculty, namely Mrs. Huff, and she had support from Mr. Baxter, from Ms. Yonker, from Mr. Voppel, from Dr. Elrod. And we had a bunch of lower school students show up to sort of experience a bunch of different science experiments, et cetera. I came with my son and he was really only interested in making ice cream. So we ate 3 or 4 sort of thimblefuls of ice cream. But this was a lovely day for our community and in celebration of science. I think it was a thing that was sort of true to the spirit of ACA. This will be a thing that we do in future years. And we saw many students come through. So we were thrilled with just the results of this effort and grateful to have a community that gets excited for things like this. You see Mr. Baxter standing over his table full of beautiful pictures of birds. You probably know this about him, but he has published multiple books about birds. He is a prolific birder. I think that's the term. Anyway, Wonderfest was a resounding success. A couple other just exciting notes about the life of the school. On Saturday, the middle school boys baseball team advanced to the final, which is tonight, I think at 5 p.m. at Brook Run Park. These boys played a fabulous game. I think while I was there, I saw Hill Hudson pitching, Thomas Bateman. I think Bailey Herndon might be pitching tonight. Anyway, really exciting for these guys to have a shot for the second year in a row at winning the title. They're just a lovely group of young men who have a ton of fun playing baseball, and they've got a great group of coaches. So if you've got some time, I'm sure there will be a massive crowd gathered to watch the game at Brook Run Park at 5 p.m. But that should be loads of fun. And last night, our girls varsity soccer team advanced to the quarterfinal. They beat Lincoln County, I think it was, 4-2 at the Silverback Stadium. So big congratulations to them. I think the quarterfinal game will be next week, also at home at the Silverback Stadium. We'll publish this probably in the Legenda, so you can look forward to more details in the event that you're interested in attending and supporting our students. All right, another thing to mark your calendars with. On April 19th, so that's tomorrow, we've got 2 important Zoom calls running. Mr. Hahn, along with the 6th grade team, Mr. Holt, Ms. Moore, Ms. Moxie are going to be doing a call for all rising 6th grade students where they preview what the life of a 6th grade student looks like. Many of you know that schedules change slightly. Students get lockers going into the 6th grade. They, for the first time, get to participate in our house system. So there are lots of sort of exciting improvements and new experiences that our 6th graders get. We also open up the 6th grade to accommodate for probably 10 more students. So the class goes from being a class of about 54 to 65, 66 even, and they actually go into 3 sections. So the net effect is that class sizes actually get smaller in 6th grade, and it stays that way through 8th grade. But we strongly encourage anyone who has a child going into the 6th grade to attend this call and get this critical information about how to navigate this transition well. We'll also be doing something at the start of the school year at Open House, as we've done in previous years, but this is just to get a head start on that work. And we're doing the same thing for our rising 7th graders, right? The transition to 6th to 7th is also a significant one. You go from having 3 teachers that you are rotating between to 6 or 7 teachers. The homework load increases a little bit. You kind of continue in the house system, but your final hour of the day begins to look a little bit different. There are some elective choices. So Mr. Sheps and a group of middle school teachers will be there to provide this commentary on how to do the 7th grade well. And then finally, April 28th, we're going to have an in-person discussion with Mr. Sheps, our college counseling team, Mr. Flynn, Ms. Doliker, and myself to kind of prepare our rising 9th graders. This, of course, is a really critical year in a student's matriculation through Atlanta Classical. And so we want to provide you, the parents, and our students with the information that they need to go into high school with their eyes wide open, to understand how course requirements work, to understand what graduation requirements are. There are just many details that shift slightly as a student goes into the 9th grade. And so we want to ensure that you really have a clear sense of what to expect. This will be detail heavy, right? We're not so much going to give a kind of defense of our mission. I think that you all know that, particularly those of you that have been with us for a long time. The focus is going to be on kind of the mechanics of the 9th grade and to leave you in a place where you feel equipped to help your child navigate this freshman year. All right, this past week, we had our PSAT and SAT scores come in from, I think, the administration that happened a couple of weeks ago. And the results were incredibly encouraging, and I wanted to take some time to share them with all of you. So our students take 3 tests. There's the PSAT 8-9, the PSAT, which students can take to qualify to become National Merit Scholars. And then there is also an SAT administration. And across the board, we saw tremendous growth. So what you're looking at here is performance at Atlanta Classical over the last 3 years. So the class of 24, the class of 25, and the class of 26. The PSAT 8-9 is a little bit different from the SAT insofar as it's not out of 1,600 points. It's actually out of 1,440, which I know is a little bit strange. But what we've seen is just steady growth from each of our classes, and also a kind of dramatic outperformance of the district and the state over the last 3 years. So we're proud of the work that our students are doing, and just excellent to see the hard work that our teachers have been about, sort of perfecting their work in the classroom, paying really close attention to excellence in instruction, paying off here just with this single objective measure. We, of course, at Atlanta Classical are not obsessed with standardized test results. It's not something that we fixate upon, but they are one way of evaluating student performance, and seeing growth like this over time, I think is a testament, again, to the work that our students and our families are doing, and also the teachers across the school. Here you can see our PSAT 10 scores. Again, from class of 23, we saw a slight improvement to the class of 24, and then a bigger jump to the class of 25. The PSAT 10 is also not out of 1,600; it's out of 1,520. But we're thrilled to see this growth over time. And lastly, I'll share our SAT scores. Again, you'll notice here that the total group, right? So these are kids across the country taking the SAT. Has actually been in kind of a slight decline since the class of 21, whereas at Atlanta Classical, we're continuing to see improvement year over year. This is a student's performance for one single sitting of the SAT, which can always be a little bit deceptive, right? Many students will choose to take the SAT multiple times. And so the result here that you're looking at, this average score from the class of 24, is from one single administration, the one that was most recent. But as Mr. Flynn and Ms. Doliker will explain to all of you who begin to go through the college admissions process, Students take the tests multiple times. You're allowed to super score your SAT performance, which is to say you take your best reading and math score, average those together, and that's what the university receives. But anyway, what you're looking at is just one single administration. But we're really impressed at the almost 200-point gap that exists between Atlanta Classical and the total group, and it's more than 200 points for Atlanta Classical's performance relative to APS. All right, so this is a really important announcement. This is not something that we've talked about publicly, and really marks a significant, I think, moment of transition in the life of the school. For the past 3 years, and even before that, we've been making a really significant investment in student life and culture. We obviously talk a lot at ACA about being excellent at teaching. This is our primary focus. This is the thing that you, the parents of Atlanta Classical, believe that we are committed to doing exceptionally well. And so we devote energy over the summer during the school year to training constantly on ensuring that your students are getting a world-class education from really excellent teachers. We know, though, that part of a student's experience, part of their formation, their intellectual and their moral formation, is the culture that we create for our students, and the experience that they have that builds that culture, right? What kind of trips do our students get to go on? What kind of retreats are they experiencing? What are the little traditions that make ACA unique and exceptional? And when the administration was sitting around sort of mid-year assessing what our offerings were for our students, and then looking at the talent that we had in our faculty, we thought that we were poised to take a significant step forward in this regard and empower some of our best teachers to take leadership roles in really attending to student culture and student experience at ACA. So I'm announcing to all of you today on this call first, and then we'll be sending out an email to the entire school community this afternoon, some new roles, these deans of student life that we're introducing this school year. So Mrs. Huff and Mr. Garrett Holt will be taking on the roles of deans of student life, and this will span 7th through 12th grade. So the primary responsibilities here will be everything from supporting with academic advising, to running student trips and events, to managing our daily advisory program, working with SGA on its programming and its many projects, and then responding to individual needs over the course of a school year. One of the things that we're serious about at Atlanta Classical is that every single student that comes through our building would have a teacher who knows them, right? Would have a teacher who knows their name, who can pour into their life, who can take on a mentoring role. And so for Mrs. Huff and Mr. Holt in particular, we are going to charge them with ensuring that they have a kind of intimate knowledge of our upper school, so that as students come into the 7th grade, and then that 9th and 10th grade window is especially critical. They have folks that are sort of laying a path for them, that are putting important traditions and events that, you know, create occasion for building community and for building strong relationships among students, but also reminding them of what makes an education at Atlanta Classical exceptional. So I'm really excited about these new roles. Ms. Yonker will be doing this work in the middle school. Of course, Mr. Huff or Mrs. Huff and Mr. Holt's roles do span the upper school, but we think there needs to be someone who's just sort of uniquely attentive to that 7th and 8th grade window. And Ms. Yonker has frankly done a lot of this work already this school year. She has been instrumental in running our 8th grade meetings that happen with every single parent in the spring semester. She is running an 8th grade graduation and convocation event with the support of our other middle school teachers like Mr. Thiel and Mr. Stone. And again, we're excited to have her to sort of laser focused on those 7th and 8th grade students, ensuring that they have a great experience at a time that many remember as being difficult, right? The 7th and 8th grade years. And of course, Mr. Garrett Holt, moving into this Dean of Student Life, vacates the Dean of Houses role, and Mr. Bryant Holt will be filling that position. One other note here is that these folks will continue with their teaching roles, right? So Mr. Bryant Holt will continue to teach in the 6th grade. Ms. Yonker will still be our middle school science teacher. Mrs. Huff will be our chemistry teacher in the high school. Mr. Holt's role, however, will be changing going into next year. He'll actually be going into the high school, where he'll be teaching 11th grade American history and some other humanities electives. Mr. Holt's sort of formal academic training is in history. So many of you know that Mr. Betancourt is going to be leaving us. So our 11th grade teacher, Mrs. Jackson, will be moving into the 12th grade, and Mr. Holt will be taking her position in 11th grade American history. And we know that this, again, this is a massive change for the lower school. Mr. Holt has been a fixture in the lower school since Atlanta Classical's founding in 2014. And frankly, as the leadership team was wrestling with this decision, what made us confident that this was the right choice is that in looking at his capacity to affect student experience, we wanted to take him from having influence on a group of 27 students in particular and expand that to apply his attention, his imagination, his affection for this place, his belief in our mission to the entire upper school, right? So that his sort of scope of influence would go from 27 kids to closer to 300. And in many cases, we'll be reuniting Mr. Holt with students that he's taught or known when they were in the lower school. So we'll be making an announcement about who will be teaching 5th grade in early June, along with an announcement that goes out to the entire school community, welcoming any new teaching faculty to our campus. You'll get pictures of these folks, profiles of them. But I wanted to share with all of you this morning these shifts. And I think I want for you all to hear this as an expression of our commitment to building a culture, to building a student experience that matches the excellence of our academic program and the instruction that's happening in our classrooms. I'm really excited about these 4 folks just using the fullness of their attention and their ability to ensure that every student who comes through our doors is both getting an excellent education and is growing closer to their friends, closer to their teachers, because they've got folks in their lives who care for them, who see them, who are committed to mentoring and nurturing them. And I couldn't imagine 4 better people than these folks. These guys will actually be on Mr. Nugent's team, right? Mr. Nugent, of course, is our assistant principal who manages discipline and culture broadly. These 4 will just be sort of focused almost exclusively on sort of the positive element of building student culture, building, again, just a thrilling life cycle for our students. And again, I'm just excited to share this news with all of you. We've been thinking and planning about this for a very long time. So this is an important announcement in the life of the school, and one that I hope really does improve the experience for every single one of our students. All right, that's what I've got for today. Thanks for coming on this call. You can look for an email kind of summarizing this note about these new leadership positions that'll go out this afternoon. But thanks for your attention and for your commitment to Atlanta Classical. We really are grateful for it. All right. Have a wonderful morning.